They told us the ocean was calm. That was the first lie. We reached the freighter just before midnight, our little Coast Guard cutter sliding up alongside a wall of rusted metal rising out of the swells. The Derelict had no running lights, no engine noise, no movement on deck, just a hulking shadow against the darker sky. Her name, barely legible under streaks of salt and rot, read, Mariana Dawn. Still gives me the creeps, Ortiz muttered beside me as we climbed the rope ladder. Whole ship, no crew, just drifting. They probably abandoned in a panic, I said, more to calm myself than him. Fire, leak, something spooked them. He snorted. We're the idiots who came aboard after them. The deck was slick and silent. No loose ropes rattling, no slamming hatches, no gulls. The sea itself sounded muted, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. Boarding party on, I said into my radio. 3 souls, myself, Ortiz, and Camilla. Beginning sweep, over. Static answered for a moment, then the faint crackle of our cutter's comms, Commander Silva's steady voice. Copy that. We have your signal. Check bridge and engine room first. If she's sound, we tow at dawn. We crossed the deck in a tight triangle formation, boots thudding hollowly. Camilla swept her flashlight across coils of rope, empty lifeboat davits, tangled nets. No life rafts, she said. If they abandoned ship, they did it properly. Maybe another vessel picked them up, I offered. Then why didn't they report it? Ortiz countered. We found the first sign of something wrong near the stern. A life jacket lay crumpled against the rail. Not unusual, except the straps were twisted tight, as if someone had clutched them desperately. The safety whistle was still in place, string knotted like it had been pulled until it cut into fingers. No blood, no obvious struggle, just the ghost of panic. The bridge door was ajar. I pushed it open, the hinges complaining under the strain. Inside, everything was in place. Charts spread across the table, coffee mug dried in a brown ring, chair half turned from the controls. Smells wrong, Camilla whispered. She was right. It didn't smell of salt and oil and sweat. It smelled like old dust trapped in a closed room for years. Except this ship had been fully operational 2 days ago, according to tracking. The radio console was lit. I stared at the soft glow of the panel. Power from where? Ortiz tapped the panel with a knuckle. Batteries, maybe? Emergency backup. One green indicator blinked steadily. VHF, channel 16, active. I leaned closer. The speaker hissed with background noise, a constant low static like distant rain. No voices. Mariana Dawn, this is Coast Guard cutter Horizonte, I said slowly, keying our portable. If anyone is on board, respond. Silence. Then, under the static, a whisper. Joanna? My hand froze on the transmit button. That was my name. Did you hear that? I asked. Hear what? Ortiz said. His face was pale, eyes wide. The speaker crackled again. Joanna, respond. This time it was clearer. My name, in a voice that sounded half-submerged, distorted by water and distance, but unmistakably my name. I swallowed. Horizonte, this is boarding team, I said, forcing my voice steady. We're receiving unusual interference on the ship's radio. Did you transmit my name over channel 16? Negative, Silva replied. We're only on operations protocol. No personal names. You sure you're not hearing feedback? The radio on the console squealed, a high, painful shriek. Then, Joanna, why did you leave us? I stepped back. That's not possible. Camilla's hand tightened on her flashlight. Maybe their crew had someone with your name. Maybe the system's looping an old transmission. The voice changed. Ortiz. We all heard it that time. Ortiz flinched like he'd been hit. That's it, he said. I'm done. This is taped. Has to be. Someone's messing with us. He reached toward the radio to shut it off. The knobs turned on their own, clicking through channels with quick, jerky movements. The volume dial spun. Feedback roared. Then all at once, silence. A single soft sound slipped through. "Camilla?" She went rigid. "That's not a recording," she whispered. "Back to the cutter," I said. "Now. This ship is compromised. I don't know how, but—" Every speaker on the bridge came alive at once. The overhead PA, the handheld mic, the main radio, all crackled, then poured out a layered chorus of whispers. Our names, over and over, overlapping, stretching, like someone pulling them through wires that were too tight. "Joanna? Ortiz? Camilla?" We backed toward the door. The bridge lights flickered. For a fraction of a second, the reflection in the reinforced glass showed not 3 Coast Guard officers, but the outline of a full crew behind us, pale and dripping, faces blurred. When the light steadied, we were alone. "Move!" I snapped. We bolted back onto the deck. The air felt heavier, like the humidity had tripled. I grabbed my radio. "Horizonte, this is boarding team. We are aborting inspection. Request immediate extraction. Repeat, immediate." The radio on my shoulder answered in Silva's voice. "Copy that, Joanna. We're bringing you home. Just come down to the engine room first. We're waiting for you." I stopped dead, because Commander Silva was not on this ship. "So?" Ortiz said. "Why are you stopping?" "Did you hear that?" I asked quietly. "Hear what?" I looked at their faces. Blank confusion. No recognition of what I'd just heard. The voice came again, but now it wasn't pretending to be Silva. "Come down to the engine room," it said. "We're waiting for you, Joanna." The sound wasn't coming from my radio. It was vibrating through the metal under our boots. "We're leaving," I said. "No more exploring. Off the ship, now." We ran for the rail where we'd tied our boarding ladder. The rope dangled over the side, but the cutter wasn't there. Only black water, empty and shifting. "Horizonte, visual contact lost," Camilla said desperately into her radio. "State position." Static. Then 3 beeps. Short, clipped, Morse code. SOS. "We should still see her," Ortiz said, voice cracking. "She was right there. There's nowhere to go." I stared into the darkness. The horizon had changed. No comforting running lights. No silhouette of our ship. Only distance, and the faint suggestion of a storm wall far away. The Mariana Dawn rocked gently, as if pleased. "Maybe they lost power and drifted," Camilla said, giving us a lie to hold on to. "Then why does the deck feel anchored?" I asked. None of us had an answer. The radios on the freighter sprang to life again, up and down the deck, speakers we hadn't noticed before, rusted but somehow functional. All of them whispering, sometimes together, sometimes alone. They listed the names of our unit. Everyone on the Horizonte. People who weren't here. People who might not even be alive. Joanna, Ortiz, Camila, Silva, Ferreira, Alves. Then quietly, "Abandoned ship." The words slithered through the air. I almost laughed. We would, if we had anything to abandon to. The metal railing under my hand was cold. Too cold. Below us, the ocean didn't look right. It felt still. No whitecaps, no swell, just a flat, dark surface stretching forever, like the ship was frozen in a sheet of black glass. "We go to the lifeboats," I said. "If this is a prank, if it's gas, mass hysteria, whatever, we get off and reassess from the water." We sprinted to the lifeboat station. Every cradle was empty, every bolt undone, every rope cut clean. Above us, the ship's horn blared without warning, a long, mournful note that made my bones vibrate. The sound wasn't right. It carried something under it, like voices trapped in metal. "Joanna!" The horn seemed to sing. "Joanna! Joanna!" The deck lights flared on across the ship, all at once, bright and sickly yellow. The radios quieted. For the first time since we boarded, I heard something new. Footsteps. Dozens of them. All around us, on the metal walkways, stairwells, above, below. But when we looked, there was no one. Just the echo of a crew that wasn't there. "We go back to the bridge," Ortiz said suddenly, panic cracking into anger. "We use their long range. We blast a mayday until someone hears us." "Who?" I asked. "Who's left to hear?" The lights flickered again. The deck vibrated. Far off, somewhere deep in the hull, something started up with a low, grinding rumble. "The engines," Camilla whispered. "They're starting." We hadn't touched them. The ghost freighter was moving. The radios crackled one final time, all in perfect unison now. No distortion, no static. "Crew located," a synthetic, automated voice said. The wind picked up, whipping my hair into my eyes, stinging my skin with salt. Somewhere, impossibly, our national anthem played, soft and off-key, like a memory. Then, in the cold, flat tone of a navigation system, "All souls accounted for." We were only 3 on that ship, but the Mariana Dawn had room for many more. I don't know who found our radios later, or how they ended up washing ashore in a place far from any shipping lane. I only know what the last recording on mine says, when they play it back for me in my dreams. My own voice, shivering, whispering into the void. Boarding party on. 3 souls. Myself, Ortiz, and Camilla. Beginning sweep. And then, faintly over my own words, a second voice that sounds like mine, but a little more tired, a little more distant. Correction. Souls on board, 312. When you spend 20 years at sea, you learn that silence is rarely a good sign. Waves roar, wind howls, engines growl, metal sings. There's always some kind of noise. That's why the tanker looked wrong before we even got close. "She's too quiet," I said, looking through the binoculars. "Drifting, engines off," Captain Malik replied. "Of course she's quiet." "That's not what I mean." The Altair star floated in the haze, massive and still, her hull streaked with rust, her superstructure looming against the gray sky. No smoke from the stack, no movement on deck, no signal flags. But her navigation lights were on, a green starboard, a red port, winking bleakly in the mist. "So who's keeping the lights on?" I asked. We were a salvage crew. This was our job. We boarded dead ships, stabilized them, and towed them to ports that would strip them down and sell their bones. But I had never boarded one that felt like this. We lined up at the rail, harnesses clipped, ropes ready. The sea lapped listlessly between our hull and theirs. "Standard sweep," Malik said. "Bridge, berths, engine room. We document, we secure, we get paid. Nobody does anything heroic or stupid." "Define stupid," I muttered. "Climbing back down before the job's done," he said. "Move." We crossed over. The deck of the Altair Star felt wrong under my boots. Not unstable, not damaged, just cold, in a way that seeped through steel and rubber and skin. "Smell that?" Wei asked behind me. I did. Not rot, not fuel, not the usual stew of odors that cling to working ships. It smelled like metal left too long in deep shade. Like the air under a bed you haven't looked under in years. No abandoned tools, no spilled cargo, no sign of a struggle. Just absence. "Bridge first," Malik said. "Let's find out who decided to take a swim and not tell anyone." We climbed narrow stairs into the tower. The doors weren't locked. Inside, the bridge was neat enough for an inspection. Charts rolled, logbook closed, wires bundled. The radio console was lit. Of course it was. Power from emergency generators, maybe, Wei said. We can kill it later. The main VHF unit hissed softly on channel 16, the international distress and calling frequency. The screen showed an active link, like it had been keyed recently. Altair Star, this is salvage crew from the Remora. Any crew on board respond, I said into my handheld. Only static answered. Then buried under it, a sound. Lena. I lowered the radio slowly. Did one of you? No, Malik said. Not funny, Wei added. The voice came again. Lena. Answer. It was barely more than a breath. The syllables dragged out like they were being pulled over gravel. My name. Radio relay? I said. Someone on another vessel calling someone with my name. It happens. On channel 16 in the middle of nowhere? Malik asked quietly. The console speakers popped. One of the other sets, the one for ship-to-ship communications, crackled to life by itself, its switch flipping with a little plastic click. Lena, why did you come back? The voice whispered. I backed away. I've never been on this ship, I said. How could I come back? Maybe your reputation precedes you, Wei joked weakly. Shut up, Malik snapped. He flipped through frequencies, switching channels. Every time the dial landed on a new one, the same voice leaked through, distorted a little differently, but always there. Lena! Lena! I covered the speaker with my hand. It didn't muffle it. The sound seemed to come from the metal itself. Bridge is a bust, I said. No sign of crew, radios are glitched. Let's check the berths. Maybe they got sick. Food poisoning. Gas leak. We descended into the living quarters. Every door stood open. Beds were made, lockers shut, personal items in place, photos taped above bunks, books stacked neatly, shoes lined up. But there were no clothes missing. No bags gone, Wei said. If they abandoned ship, they left everything behind. Maybe they didn't have time, Malik said. In the galley, plates sat on the long table, some with dried sauce crusted on them. A pot perched on the stove, long empty, its bottom burned. Mugs waited in a rack, everyone hanging straight, unmoving. No mold, I said. No smell of rot in the fridge. How long has she been drifting? Signal was logged 3 days ago, Malik answered. She didn't have time to look like this. I went to the wall-mounted radio handset in the galley, the kind used to call the bridge. Its cord hung slack. Before I could touch it, it swung. Just a little. Just enough to turn in a slow half-circle. The speaker above it crackled. Mess deck. Lena, we're still hungry. I yanked the cord from the wall. The voice didn't stop. This time it came from somewhere below us. The deck vibrated with it. Engine room, Malik said. Now. Every instinct screamed no. But training runs deeper than fear. We descended the ladder wells toward the heart of the ship. The air grew hotter, heavier. The hum of machinery should have grown louder too, but it didn't. In fact, the closer we got, the quieter everything became. By the time we reached the engine deck, our own breathing sounded too loud. The engine room was still. Giant pistons loomed in the dim light, motionless. Gauges showed zero pressure. Valves were shut. Yet the indicator panel on the far wall blinked erratically, green and red points of light chasing each other like fireflies trapped in glass. Generators throwing nonsense, Wei muttered. The engine room intercom crackled. Wei, he flinched. Okay, that's enough, he said. We're leaving. This is not worth the bonus. Agree, Malik said. Whatever happened here, the ship's not stable. This feels like a trap. The overhead speaker spat white noise, then, Malik, too late. A deep metallic groan rolled through the hull. For a second I thought we'd hit something. But the sea was calm. We weren't moving. Yet the ship shifted. The deck tilted slightly. Loose tools that hadn't been there a moment before slid a few centimeters. A wrench rolled in a slow, lazy arc. "Back to the deck," I said. We climbed. The stairwell felt longer, the air thicker. Halfway up, all the ship's internal speakers came alive in a howl of overlapping voices. Not just our names now. The entire crew manifest, recited in a relentless, cracked whisper. Names I didn't know. Names from the Altair Star's logbook, no doubt. But between them, like static between stations, our own. Lena, Wei, Malik. At the top of the stairs, the door to the deck refused to budge. "Help me," Malik grunted. We both threw our shoulders into it. It gave an inch, then another, then suddenly flew open. We stumbled onto the deck. The sea was gone. Not literally. It was still there, technically, far below. But the Altair Star no longer sat in water. Blackness stretched out on all sides, a vast mirror with no reflection. No stars, no horizon, no moon. Just a faint sense of height, of air, of a drop that never ended. Our salvage vessel was nowhere to be seen. "We didn't feel any jump," Wei whispered. "No acceleration, no waves. How are we?" The ship's external horn boomed. The sound rolled over us, through us, vibrating in our ribs. Under it, under the brassy bellow, I heard words. "All crew to deck. All crew to deck." Behind us, in the superstructure, doors slammed open in sequence. One after another, as if answering a call. Every radio on the ship, from the bridge to the handhelds to the emergency beacons, crackled into life. "Lena, you came back? You brought them back." "I've never been here before," I shouted, voice cracking. A pause. Then, softly, "Not this time." The ship shuddered. Somewhere deep inside, engines that had been dead for days or weeks or years coughed, sputtered, then turned over in a low, painful rumble. "We jump," Wei said suddenly. "We tie off, we rappel down, we don't care what's under us, we just get away." "To where?" Malik asked. "We don't even know if that's water anymore." "It's not this ship," Wei said. "That's enough." I looked at the rail. The ropes we'd used to board were still there, trailing into the dark. And from that dark, I heard something. Not waves, whispers. Hundreds of them, thousands. Rising up from below like bubbles from a deep wreck, all calling at once, but not in panic. In welcome. "Lena! Lena!" I stepped back. The Altair Star's horn sounded again. Short, long, short, long. A private signal. A call just for us. I don't know how it ends, because every time I reach this part in my memory, something skips. I'm on the deck, listening. Then I'm in my bunk on our own vessel. Weeks later, stomach hollow, ears still ringing. They say we found the Altair Star unmanned. They say our boarding party, me, Wei, Malik, reported nothing unusual before declaring the ship unfit for salvage and returning. They played back the recordings from my helmet cam. There is no radio voice calling my name. No walk through silent berths. No impossible black horizon. Just grainy footage of a normal derelict tanker. The three of us walking its decks, saying almost nothing, moving through the motions like sleepwalkers. At the end, my own voice, calm and businesslike. "Altair Star secure. No crew located. No incident to report. Returning to vessel. Over." But underneath that, when they crank the volume up, there's something else. My name, whispered in a dozen different tones, male and female and something in between, threaded under every word I say. "Lena, Lena, Lena." The company offered me paid leave. I took it. Now, at night, when the house is quiet and the city's noises fade, my old VHF scanner, unplugged, unwired, gathering dust on a shelf, sometimes comes on by itself. Channel 16. Static. Then softly, Altair Star. To salvage crew. Come back aboard. And almost tenderly, Lena. The North Atlantic has always been a graveyard. We build things to cross it, to measure it, to own it. It tears them apart and keeps their bones. That's why I became a meteorologist, not a sailor. I liked the storms on screens, in models, in safe colors and numbers. I tracked systems, watched pressure drop, warned ships where not to go. So when they asked me to join the expedition, I should have said no. It's a unique opportunity, Dr. Hubble said, rubbing his glasses. An unmanned weather ship from the 70s, presumed sunk, suddenly reappears on satellite imagery, still transmitting a faint beacon. Imagine what data could be on those tapes, a time capsule of storms. Aren't there better people for this? I asked. Ones who don't get seasick watching documentaries? We need someone who understands old instruments, he said. You wrote your thesis on them. Besides, it'll be a short trip. It wasn't. We found the weather ship in a patch of ocean the maps called simply WS-3. A gray hull, small compared to modern vessels, rolled lazily on the swell. No crew, no superstructure to speak of. Just a deck cluttered with antennas, sensor masts, and a small, squat operations cabin. Her name, printed in peeling black letters, Echo 7. Creepy, our expedition captain Jelani said as we approached. Looks like she sailed out of a black and white horror movie. She was decommissioned, I said, scrapped on paper, but someone forgot to actually sink her. Or she sailed herself back, one of the techs joked. No one laughed. We boarded. The deck was a forest of metal rods and dishes, bristling with rusted instruments long dead. But some weren't dead. A weather vane creaked, turning in a wind that wasn't there. A barometer ticked softly. A bank of analog dials flickered behind cracked glass. Inside the tiny cabin, the air was stale but not suffocating. Charts from decades ago pinned to corkboard. A coffee mug fossilized with mold. A row of analog tape machines mounted on the wall, reels motionless. In the center of it all, a radio console. It was on. That's not possible, I whispered. Green LEDs glowed faintly. Needles twitched. A strip chart recorder scratched a thin line on yellowed paper, tracing atmospheric pressure as if it had never stopped. There's no way her batteries lasted this long, Jelani said. Maybe someone serviced her recently, I said. But who? And why log nothing? The radio crackled. Station Echo 7, reporting. The voice was thin, distant, fractured by time. It sounded like someone talking through a waterlogged throat. We froze. Could be playback, one tech said. Old recordings looped. The voice continued, calmly reciting coordinates: wind speed, wave height, barometric pressure. All of it matched what our modern instruments were reading outside. The storm front we were studying loomed on the horizon, a wall of bruised cloud. Maybe the ship woke itself back up when the storm pattern matched something from its archive, I said, thinking aloud. Like a reflex. Listen, Jelani said. The voice on the radio paused. Then it said, Crew of RV Orpheus, you are off course. Our ship, our name. I did not feed that into this system, I whispered. She's reading us somehow. The voice resumed its calm recitation. Crew of Orpheus, Dr. Emma Clark, Dr. Havel, Jelani. One by one, it recited our names. First and last, perfect pronunciation. Even the techs, even the intern who joined last minute. Old records? Someone offered weakly. How? We weren't even born when Echo 7 went offline, I said. Static hissed. The voice changed. No longer a crisp, practiced tone. Now it was softer. Wrong. Dr. Clark, My stomach dropped. Answer, please answer. That's not a recording, Jelani said. Maybe it's picking up a relay from our own ship, I said. Some feedback. But the Orpheus's comms were silent. We'd left one tech on board. They would have called if they'd heard this. The radio on Echo 7 shifted frequencies with a loud clunk. The needle slid across the band, stopped, and locked on a frequency marked with a strip of red tape. Storm advisory. Dr. Clark, you are inside the anomaly. Old weather ships like Echo 7 used that term sometimes. Anomaly. A polite way of saying, we don't know what this storm is doing. I leaned over the console, scanning the settings, the logs. No handwriting after 1974. Yet the pressure chart on the wall had new marks, little pencil circles and dates. Some of them were from last year. One was from last week. Okay, Jelani said, clapping his hands once. We collect the tapes, we take photos, we get back on the Orpheus. Whatever this is, it's not our job to explain it. Data first, I said automatically. The tape machines hummed. We hadn't turned them on. One reel jerked, then began to spin, slow and grinding. A tape spooled from one side to the other, passing the playback head. The speakers popped. Echo 7, this is weather control, a crisp voice from decades ago said. Your last transmission was garbled. Repeat your storm anomaly report. The reply came in the voice we'd first heard. Calm. Professional. Echo 7. Reporting closed-loop storm system. Vessel caught inside repeating cell. Time markers no longer aligning. Crew hearing, duplicates. Clarify duplicates, Echo 7. Names, the voice said. Voices, ours, but wrong. Off. System calling us to positions we have not logged. We request immediate extraction. Static swallowed the last word. Then, over it, something faint. My name. Emma. But this was an old tape, recorded before I was born. What if the anomaly isn't the storm? I said, throat dry. What if it's time itself, a loop, a pocket where echoes of transmissions, of people, keep bouncing? Then we definitely leave, Jelani said. Now. The ship tilted. We all grabbed for support. Outside, the sea had been calm when we boarded. Now the cabin windows showed swells building, gray water heaving under a darkening sky. That was fast, one tech said nervously. Forecast had this system farther out. I checked my handheld. Barometric pressure had dropped sharply in minutes. The radio spoke again. Dr. Clark. The voice was not from any tape. It was live. You are repeating. Please adjust course. How do we adjust course off a ship that isn't supposed to exist? I snapped. On the wall, the strip chart recorder stuttered. The pen jumped, drawing a jagged line that made no sense. Next to it, numbers appeared on a pad of paper in fresh pencil strokes. No one was holding a pencil. The digits spelled our coordinates. Beneath that, do not depart. The storm outside is nothing compared to this, Havel murmured, eyes wide. If we leave in the wrong moment, we may not leave at all. So we stay? One tech asked. On a ghost weather ship? In a time bubble? Better than stepping out into a storm that might drop us in 1974, Havel replied. The radio crackled. You have already left, and you have not yet arrived, the voice said. Echo 7, Orpheus, repeating pattern. Ask it what happens if we do nothing, Jelani whispered. I swallowed and keyed the mic. Echo 7, this is Dr. Clark. What happens if we stay aboard? Static. Then, some crew remained. Their names repeated until the tapes wore out. And those who left? I asked. Silence. Then a chorus of voices, layered, distorted. Storm. 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 No names. No identities. Just the endless roar of wind. Outside, thunder rolled, though there was no lightning. The radio shifted frequencies again, rapidly this time, flipping through bands like a panicked hand, catching bits and pieces of transmissions. "Mayday, this is freighter Solstice. Fishing vessel Aurora, caught in something. This is the Orpheus, crew of 8, approaching." I stiffened. "That's us," Jelani whispered. "That's our departure call." We listened. On the recording, my own voice said, "Copy that, Orpheus. You are greenlit for expedition. Weather window clear for 12 hours. But I had never spoken those words. Not like that. The storm hit in earnest. Rain slammed the deck. The cabin shook. The instruments on Echo 7 whirred and ticked, some waking up for the first time in decades, needles dancing wildly. "Decision time," Jelani shouted over the noise. "Stay and become part of this museum, or risk stepping out into whatever that is." "I don't think we get to choose," I shouted back. The radio agreed. "All courses lead to repeat," it said gently. "Some shorter, some longer." The last thing I remember clearly is grabbing a set of old tapes, shoving them into my bag, and feeling the cabin tilt sideways as a wave bigger than the ship itself reared outside the window. Then, I'm on the Orpheus, in my bunk. My clothes are dry. The storm outside has passed. They tell me we never found Echo 7, that the beacon we chased faded out as we approached WS3, that we turned back when the weather got rough. Jelani doesn't remember boarding anything. Havel says I must have dreamed it. But in my bag, under my spare clothes, there's a reel of tape that the others don't see. Whenever I take it out, my fingers come away smelling of old metal and salt. When I found an old player and threaded it through, it whirred to life without power. The voice that comes out is my own. "Echo 7, I hear myself say. Reporting closed-loop storm system. Vessel caught inside repeating cell. Crew hearing duplicates. Names, voices, ours." Then, softly over the sound of approaching thunder, "Dr. Emma Clark, you will receive this transmission in the future. Please adjust course." I stopped the tape there, because after that, the storm hits, and my voice is swallowed by the ocean. And somewhere out on the North Atlantic, an unmanned weather ship no one can find keeps calling the names of people who haven't boarded her yet.